It's a monster fight. Two big old monsters just crashing into each other, just going at it, destroying whole cities in the process. The Mega Kaiju, three powerful monsters in one, the ultimate kaiju trinity. And who's it going up against? Oh, just the ultimate monster power couple, the MUTOs. Two radiation loving titans that can take on anyone in their path, even Godzilla. So, who's coming out on top here? Who's going to win when we throw them in the battle arena? Well, let's get into it. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to DanCo with the notifications on. We always really appreciate the support. And first things first, well, I want to take a closer look at the Mega Kaiju, right? That's what I want to do, don't you? I mean, just look at him. It's basically the first kaiju hybrid over in the Pacific Rim universe, and is essentially an amalgamation of Raijin, Hakuja, and Strikethorn, all Category 4 and 5 kaiju. Like I said, the holy trinity of monsters, the ultimate kaiju. See, Category 4 and 5 kaijus are already kind of the strongest in the Pacific Rim universe. That's where the scales max out at. So, three of these guys merging into one is absolutely unheard of. It's easily the most powerful kaiju we've seen in Pacific Rim. And man, is it strong. It sent Gypsy Avenger flying backwards with a simple headbutt. Just kind of gets him out of there. Really, let's just be honest here. It just spent the whole fight throwing Jaegers around like they were made out of paper, like they're nothing more than rag dolls. And so I was able to tear them apart with ease, just easy peasy, even breaking one in half with just one hit. However, the most impressive thing that the Mega Kaiju ever did was grabbing one of the Jaegers and swinging it around and around and around, sending it flying through multiple skyscrapers and destroying them in the process. Like, wow, that is just crazy dominant. But then there's the MUTOs, or massive unidentified terrestrial organisms. So, not really the most creative names when you actually think about it. They're ancient parasitic monsters that feed off of radiation, and actually prehistoric enemies of Godzilla, as they typically like to attack and kill other Godzillas in order to lay their eggs inside, which, ew. Please, nobody ever do that to me. The MUTOs also have some absolutely wild sexual dimorphism, which means that the boy and the girl are way different from each other. The guy's a whole lot smaller and can fly all around, while the girl is just positively massive, like the same size as Godzilla himself. And even though these things are kind of overlooked in the Monsterverse, they're honestly a little scary. The male Muto was able to dig out a huge hole literally right after birth, then destroy a nuclear facility an hour later. It picked up a nuclear sub and carried it off into the jungle. It ate like half a monorail, just nom nom nom, gobbled it up. It was a lot. The female Muto was able to dig out a pretty big hole herself. I mean, she dug out half a mile under a mountain, then essentially destroyed most of downtown Las Vegas right afterwards. And then they fought against Godzilla. Let's be honest here, let's be clear. When they were just by themselves, Godzilla clearly outmatched both of them. Whenever he had a one-on-one fight with one of them, well, he was easily winning. Wasn't even really a contest. Now, when they were to double team him, though, well, that's when things get a little tricky. That's when the fight began to turn in the Muto's favor. That's when Godzilla started to lose the fight. And that's what might be happening here, too. I mean, it is going to be a 2-on-1 fight. And that worked out real well against Godzilla. Like the novelization of the movie said that Godzilla had injuries so severe that you could literally see his bones poking through. And he lost 75% of his blood. 75%, that's a whole lot of blood. They're able to drag Godzilla around, stab Godzilla, take him down, do a body slam, have Godzilla on his knees. They did that to Godzilla, the king of the monsters. But here's the deal. I want to pause real quick right here and talk about weight. Talk about body image, what you see on that scale. More importantly, what the monsters see on the scale. Because the monsters' weights are real different in these two different universes. We don't have an exact weight for the MUTOs over in the Monsterverse, but some estimates around 40,000 and like 70,000 tons. So tens of thousands of tons. For the Mega Kaiju, 7,000 tons. The MUTOs could potentially weigh 10 times as much. It's like a featherweight versus a sumo wrestler. That just doesn't seem fair, right? So, what if we just get rid of that part of the fight? What if we make their weights a non issue? Equalize it, remove it, whatever. They're both the same size. I don't think we should allow the different scale numbers in the two universes to determine this fight. Let's let the actual feats decide. When it comes to actual feats, well, both of them are really, really tough. The MUTOs can take attacks from the military, no problem. It really only annoys them, just kind of frustrates them as they get all shot up with bullets. Then obviously they can take attacks from Godzilla. And man, did they take some attacks from Godzilla. He threw them all around, he threw them through buildings, he really beat them up. The Fem Muto was even able to take some blast from Godzilla's atomic breath. Like, granted, she was hurt by them, was definitely dinged up, but was ultimately able to shrug them off. But here's the catch. Both the Mutos were killed by Godzilla. They were injured and killed with some pretty simple attacks. Like the male Muto, it was killed with one tail hit by Godzilla. One tail swipe. It was a tail swipe that only knocked over one measly little skyscraper along with it. With Mega Kaiju, was able to grab a Jaeger and swing it through buildings on buildings on buildings on buildings. If all it takes to put down the Muto for good is this, well, I think Mega Kaiju can do that too. Granted, it took some attacks from Godzilla before this one, but still, I think Mega Kaiju has the same kind of power where it can deliver the same kind of finishing blow. The female Muto might be a little bit tougher to take down. It took Atomic Breath straight down the gullet to do that. But if Mega Kaiju can kill the male so easily, well, that's still a pretty big deal. That still evens out the fight in a major way. The thing is, Mega Kaiju isn't just super strong, he's also super tough. The dude's got a pretty thick hide, and it's going to help him a lot in this fight. Now, granted, Mega Kaiju is so freaking dominant in his fight against the Jaegers that he really didn't even get injured that much. But like we said, Mega Kaiju is actually the combined enhanced versions of three other kaiju: Raijin, Hakuja, and Strikethorn. Before they even combined to form a Mega Kaiju, Gypsy Avenger dropped 5 or 6 skyscrapers on top of Raijin, and the kaiju just brushed it off like it was nothing. In fact, Raijin is a Category 5 kaiju, which we've seen guys in this category survive a nuclear blast before. And Strikethorn and Hakuja are both Category 4s, which aren't too far behind. And all this is before they combined and became Mega Kaiju and became even more powerful and became even more durable. And that's not all. See, the problem here is the Mutos, when they're clawing and scratching up Godzilla, well, they don't actually inflict very deep wounds. Still effective for fighting against Godzilla, but it's basically what you could call like knuckle deep. And that's a problem here against Mega Kaiju, because one, it's got tough skin. It held up pretty well against Jaeger swords, which are a whole lot more effective at cutting than the Mutos. But then two, well, it's just the Mega Kaiju's physiology. There's a whole lot of organ redundancy, like a heavily armored head and 3 separate secondary brains just for like backup contingencies. Meaning that the Mega Kaiju is going to be a whole heck of a lot harder for the Mutos to bleed out, which was essentially their strategy for Godzilla. Only thing is, to be fair, pretty much as soon as Mega Kaiju came onto the screen, it was killed. It didn't really stick around for too long. Yeah, it did a whole lot to kill it. I mean, the only way it died was because Gypsy Avenger dropped from freaking orbit and on top of it, which is impressive, but still, it didn't last too long. But are the MUTOs really going to be replicating that kind of attack? Like, really? And even if they are they going to be able to do it as easily as Mega Kaiju can replicate this attack? Yeah, I guess that's the real question. Here's the bottom line: the MUTOs were able to fight against Godzilla. Like, seriously, they were able to fight against Godzilla, King of the Monsters, a guy who should be way out of their weight class, is way out of their weight class, but they still gave him a good fight. How'd they do that? Well, they had a pretty good strategy when it came to whittling Godzilla down, avoiding his trump card attacks. Godzilla can't really reach them with its stubby little arms. They're basically the paper to Godzilla's rock. Problem is, Mega Kaiju is not rock. This is just not a good matchup for the Mutos in terms of abilities. I mean, for starters, Mega Kaiju can actually just reach up over its head, so look out. You try and fly all around its face, like with Godzilla, and Mega Kaiju is just gonna grab you and fling you into the next town over. And it's really fast, and used to dealing with fast, agile robots, so don't act like the Mega Kaiju can't do this. Plus, with all those spikes and everything on its back, that can't work out too well for the Mito's swoop and attack strategy. And the Mega Kaiju also has what I like to call its superpower. Basically, it's got this crazy cool power to take kinetic energy, so the energy from any punch, any kick, any attack, take in all that energy, absorb it, then redirect it and send it back out. Essentially, it can turn your own attack against you. And that can actually be pretty devastating. And if the Muto's main strategy is just to wear their enemies out and slowly beat them to death, well, that's like the worst idea here. For starters, you're just not going to be able to do too much damage because you can't reach any of the vital stuff. But probably more importantly, well, it's really just giving lots of opportunities to charge Mega Kaiju up. I mean, this is an energy absorber. If your strategy is just to hit it with a lot of small attacks, well, you're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for all that to be redirected right back at you. So, end of the day, well, while the Mutos are a pretty good match against Godzilla specifically, I wouldn't say they're a good match against all kaiju. And they're in for a rude awakening here. Mega Kaiju wins.